Trump flies under the radar, makes history an unprecedented move Obama couldn't accomplish. Trump hates women. That's the usual lazy line we hear from the liberal left whenever Trump does something they don't like. Trump doesn't think taxpayers should give Planned Parenthood $500 million every year? Sexist. Trump said something rude about Rosie. Sexist. Trump doesn't think Christian employers should be forced to violate their faith and pay for their employees' birth control? Sexist. The reality is that throwing the gender card is only done by people who don't have actual arguments to bring to the table. It's hard to blame them, though. If they actually wanted to talk about sexism, they would have a hard time because Trump's record speaks for itself. In fact, it turns out he has more women in key positions than any president ever. Yes, including the liberal messiah Barack Obama. From Conservative Tribune. The reality of the situation, as laid out in detail in an op-ed for The Hill by GOP strategist Jen Kearns, is that Trump actually has more women at senior levels in various parts of his administration than any of his recent predecessors, including former Presidents Barack Obama and Bill Clinton. Also, it is worth noting that several of those women are minorities or descended from immigrants to America. Yes. You read that right. Here's more from The Hill. Naturally, Vogue has written about it. Cosmopolitan has shouted it from the rooftops, as has MSNBC and every other liberal news outlet. If only that last part were true. Despite impressive hiring practices during his first year in the White House, President Donald Trump has received little to no credit for his choice of women for the most senior positions on his cabinet, as well as the West Wing. In fact, the mainstream media only selectively reported on the male appointees of the Trump administration, claiming that he was appointing more white and male than any first cabinet since Reagan. This myth was perpetuated by Representative Nancy Pelosi's, Democrat California, comments as well as media reports that Trump only valued the opinions of guys named Steve. The New York Times even reported on January 13, 2017, a full week before Trump even took the oath of office or set foot in the Oval Office, that he apparently preferred men over women for senior roles. Gotta love the mainstream media. Anyone who paid attention to Trump's career in real estate knows he was always at the forefront of putting women in high-paid positions. Now, it's important to remember that we shouldn't look at this situation the way liberals do. Diversity is not the first priority. Getting the job done is. Liberals think people should be hired based on their race and gender rather than performance. That's basically the literal definition of discrimination. However, if we are playing their game, it is totally fair to point out that Trump has hired a ton of women, which flies in the face of the narrative he doesn't take women seriously. Trump is looking for the person best for the job. If that person is white, that's great. Black? That's great. Female? That's great. It's never mattered to Trump. Eric Trump said the other day that the only color his dad cares about is green, and that's true in many respects. Just get the job done. Here's the full list of women Trump has built up. His list of female appointees is long. Nikki Haley, ambassador to the United Nations, not only a woman but also child of Indian American Sikh immigrants. Elaine Chao, Secretary of Transportation. Kirstjen Nielsen, Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security. Dr. Heather Wilson, Secretary of the Air Force. Sarah Sanders, White House Press Secretary. Kellyanne Conway, Counselor to the President. Linda McMahon, Administrator of the U.S. Small Business Administration. Betsy DeVos, Secretary of Education. Yvonne Carranza, U.S. Treasurer, also a minority and first-generation Mexican-American immigrant. Naomi Rao, Regulation Czar, also a minority and daughter of parents from India. Seema Verma, Administrator of the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, also a minority. Heather Brand, Associate Attorney General. Kelly Sadler, Director of Surrogate and Coalitions Outreach. Mercedes Schlapp, Senior Communications Advisor, also a minority whose father was once a political prisoner of Fidel Castro. Ivanka Trump, Advisor to the President. Hope Hicks, Communications Director. Jessica Ditto, Deputy Director of Communications. And Dinah Powell, Deputy National Security Advisor, who according to White House sources will remain in her position through the end of January and will likely be replaced by another woman after Powell completes her first year in office. This statistic has to be really embarrassing for Democrats.